Okay, so today I feel like $1,000,000 compared to yesterday, but nowhere near feeling like $1,000,000. Does that make sense? So it is a night and day transformation. Now, I just picked up a new supplement yesterday to kind of help with my exhaustion because last week has been really, man, it was really bad. And of course, it's a day by day thing. All right, and you're gonna notice that I come on here and sound like hell, and like today I feel fine. And I slept extra well last night, so that's even better. So now, um, okay, Switchport Modes. Okay, now, one thing I have to tell you, okay, the deeper you go into this, okay, the information never stops. Every topic that I talk to you about, the rabbit hole goes as deep as possible. Okay, it is a black hole of information. All right, meaning that you can dive in and you'll never come out of it. Okay, everybody at some point in life, especially the person with a particular intellect, the desire to, or the curiosity to know, to have to know how things work, things of that nature. Okay, if this is what you are, who you are, okay, I've been that way ever since I was 10 years old. maybe even before. I just know at 10 years old, that's when I started taking my mother's hair dryers apart and everything else. Okay, all right. That curiosity since I was 10 years old has never left me. Okay, all right. But at some point, especially when you're trying to master something, okay, all right. At some point, you realize you just don't know shit. Okay. At that point in your life, that's where the real learning starts to begin. It will take decades to get there. Okay, and it has to come to your realization, your eye opening of the universe, and realize that, oh my God, you know, this is what every scientist and every person with that type of intellect will actually go across. I use the word intellect, which is actually really probably a poor choice of words. Okay, but what I'm telling you is a master at a certain level. There are different levels of masters. Okay, all right, of any subject, of anything. All right, and most of them are only there for a paycheck. Okay, it's part of their career. They're not even real masters. All right, they just call themselves experts. They're not real masters. Okay, all right. You walk into a doctor's office. All right, they're just going through the motions. They're just checking their book. All right, they record your symptoms. They go back to their office. All right, they read their little medical book. All right, it gives them an answer, and that's how they come with the diagnostics. Where a real doctor is a sense of a practice. Okay, this practice that they are doing is part of their practice in life. It never ends. It never stops. Okay, that is what this is. Okay, even if you got a CCIE, your learning is not done. Okay, you're not done. You have to defend your title. All right, you you go through all the boxing training. Okay, you finally get the heavyweight champion. Two, your training isn't done. You just got learning to do. All right, now you got to defend the title. Okay. Excuse me. All right, so now, give me 1 second, guys. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and so on and so on. So now, let's go to our trusty switch here. show interface FAO1 switchport. My favorite command. Okay, now our administrative mode is dynamic auto. So what I'm going to do is, okay, and you know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop doing it this way. Even though it's convenient for me. Okay, first of all, we need to make all these changes here. Let's turn this off. Let's get this done right. I didn't even realize it. No. No, 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 no. There we go. Come on. Darker yellow here. Alright, and let's go back over to here. Session. Come on. Default save. Alright, so now we are going to go to Telnet. And there we go. Much better. Okay. Now remember, when you're logging in via the serial port, okay, and through a COM port, you can only use one connection with the COM port. Now, if you want to create multiple COM port sessions, okay, you need to have a serial adapter or serial to USB to serial adapter, or a COM port for every port that you want to open. So if I want 4 sessions open, I gotta have 4 COM ports. Okay, with a VTY line, they're virtual, so I can have as many as the router actually allows. Which every router has a limit on that based on the platform, okay, or the actual iOS version. So, what was I about to do here? Oh, okay. So I'm going into FigT interface FA01. All right, you can tell in my voice I'm a lot, a lot more alert, but we're still gonna have our little hiccups here and there, and that's just part of it. It never goes away. All right, so. Meaning that when you are doing your hiccups 5 years later, you know that what damn Kyle's doing it 15 years later. So, I'm okay with that. All right, and you just keep moving on. All right, now, in the beginning, okay, I have to add this point. In the beginning, your mistakes are going to be all you do. Okay? You're going to find yourself constantly erasing the startup config and rebooting the router and starting over. That's okay. Okay? Alright? Eventually the balance of the scale will tip where at some point you'll start being more successful than you are failing. However, every topic that you start, that failure starts all over again. And eventually you'll get used to failure where failure doesn't mean anything to you. Okay? Alright, but again that's a gradual process. Okay? So I'm going to say Switchport Mode Trunk. Done. Now, it's not done because it says the command is rejected. Great, great, great message, by the way. Let's turn on our terminal monitor. All right. An interface whose trunk's encapsulation is auto cannot be configured to trunk mode, which makes sense because it's set to auto. So we're going to say Switchport trunk encapsulation, okay, .1Q. There are options. Okay, now we've changed the encapsulation from auto to .1Q, and now we're going to go up and say Switchport mode trunk. Done. Now, show. Interface. FAO1. Oh, by the way, when this interrupts my text, all I do is hit the tab key to get back to where I was, to continue on where I was going. If I haven't told you that yet. Switchport. Now, my administrative mode is not auto now, it's trunk. Okay? Alright, so we have certain modes that our switchport can be in. Okay? Alright? Switchport mode trunk. Alright? That's where we are now. It is on. Now, let's see if I remember this. Okay. Dynamic, desirable, dynamic, auto. Okay? Now, dynamic auto. Okay, let's do this. Let's bring this up here. Let's go ahead and delete all this stuff here. Ooh, what happened there? Okay. All right, and now we are going to change this here. Dynamic, desirable. Are you serious? Notice I'm a huge fan of arrow keys. Okay, because trying to use my mouse to put the cursor exactly where I want it is just annoying. Okay, so, now. Dynamic desirable. When your port is in that mode. Okay? Alright? And it gets certain trunk information. Okay? If I am in dynamic desirable and another side of my link, and I'm getting messages from that link trying to become a trunk with me, I am going to change my port into a trunk port and negotiate with the other side of that link and form a trunk on my end. Now, it is possible that on the other side, the trunk does not form. Remember, these devices are independent of each other. Okay? All right? So, if I form a trunk on switch 1, okay, make sure you verify switch 2 is formed as well. Okay? These are not communicating entities. They just respond to messages. Okay? And information that comes in on their ports. All right? So, information comes in. Someone wants to try to form a port. Form a trunk. Bam. Okay. That means someone could be sitting in the middle sending out messages, and your port is set as dynamic desirable. Automatically becomes a trunk. Now, all VLAN information is being sent to that hacker. Make sense? Okay. So, this could be a security issue with you. This is why I say auto is something that you should not do, or should not auto do. Whatever. I don't know. I do not know how the saying goes. Okay, I don't like auto stuff. I like manual configuration stuff. Now, dynamic auto. Okay. All right, let's go back and let's see if I have. I might have to look this up on Cisco. All right, so we have dynamic audio. Okay, all right, so let's go and let's read this up on Cisco here. And Cisco Switchport Modes. Okay, now in what you're noticing with me now, okay, I'm getting conflicts within my thought process of one little teeny thing. What exactly does auto do when it's bringing in DTPs? Okay, and we're going to talk about that. All right. I don't want to form. I hate when forms come up. Here we go. That is the diagram that I want. And where the hell did it go? Oh, it's right here. Okay, so can I get rid of this? I guess not. Okay, all right. What is this saying? Trunk access, dynamic auto, dynamic desirable. I think I'm reading this correctly. Okay, so on one side of the link, I have it configured as a truck. The other side of the link is configured as a truck. I'm going to form a truck. Okay, I don't know what this access limited means. Okay, all right. I might have to go through and read the actual documentation. Okay, let's read this first. Truck. This mode hardwires the port to operate as a truck. My favorite configuration. Okay? Alright? Now, you might find in some ways that this doesn't work. Okay? For some reason, there's a bug in iOS. Alright? Causing weird stuff to happen, and you need to go into dynamic auto on both sides. Okay? Or dynamic auto and dynamic desirable. If you do dynamic auto on both sides, it ain't gonna work. So take that out of your brain. Okay, so let's read this here. Access. This mode hardwires the port as operating as an access mode. Now, remember when I did a Switchport mode access? Okay, access really means this. Okay, all right. This port that I've configured as access is only going to operate in a mode where someone is plugged in to access my domain, okay, or my infrastructure, okay, all right. I'm never going to allow tagged information to come in. I'm never going to allow VLAN information to transfer over between links. Okay, I'm never going to go into a truck mode. Now, I want you to think of this, okay. Number one thing, guys, you're in a corporate office, okay? All right? And everybody has their ideas of doing things. Now, for some strange, odd reason, the conference room has two ports, one on one wall and one on the other, as far as the Ethernet port configuration is. Why someone would do that in the conference room is beyond me, okay? But it happens. Now, someone could cut a hole in the table, okay? All right, change the port security if it has it on one of those ports on the walls, okay? You do not allow sticky, okay? All right, because when you allow sticky, you are sticking those addresses to only be operational in that port. And once you hit the limit of that port, let's say maximum is 10, okay, those are the only 10 MAC addresses that are allowed to be on that port. So we don't want to do sticky, okay? All right, we do not want to record that information in the configs. Now, all right, we're going to do a maximum of 15, okay, because there's 15 chairs in there, all right? And everyone can plug into the table because someone put 20 jacks in there, all right? Okay? And those 20 jacks, okay, are going over into one port in the wall. So that port needs to have a maximum of 20 MAC addresses, okay? All right? Now, since it's 15 chairs, you can also put 15. It doesn't really matter. It all depends on how you do the design. All right? So now, someone doesn't do that. They don't fix the problem. Okay? Because apparently, all right, some people in our field, which should never be the case, okay, and I don't want you to be the same way. They see a problem, okay, they don't address it, okay. Tickets come into your queue all the time with problems with that scenario, and for 5 years you've been on the job, you deal with this every week. It's still fixing the problem, okay, or coming up with a solution to eliminate that problem, okay, or isolate it, or do what? Minimize it, okay? No, for 5 years you've been dealing with this problem every week, and this is just, you feel this is just what you get paid for. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Okay? Alright? And don't be the guy who says, you know what, I didn't, you know, that's not my problem, that's George's problem. Alright, look, stop pointing the blame, come up with a solution. Alright? That's what you get paid for. Alright? But this happens all the time. Alright? And so what if someone does? I said, you know what? They're not gonna fix the problem. I'm gonna fix the problem myself. Now I'm gonna go to Best Buy and I'm gonna buy me a nice little wireless hub. Okay? So now they plug it into the wall. Alright, and now he's the hero of the conference. Okay, of the conference meetings every week, because he brings us in every week. Alright? Everyone connects to his wireless hub, you know, his Linksys wireless hub he got from Best Buy. Okay? And now, because he physically plugs it into the wall, okay, everybody, every week there's a conference, okay, everybody on the floor outside of the conference is down. They can't connect to resources, they can't get to the internet, regardless, because this Linksys automatically, because remember, it's not managed, it's not a managed switch, okay, this has DHCP server already set up, and it sends out, because it's always a Class C network, a 192.168 network, okay, whether it starts with .0, or .1.0, okay, it doesn't really matter, all right, it sends out 254 addresses, and now 254 people are out, okay. Now, what happens to the other past that? Well, they'll get a message that from the PC that, you know, the DHCP is exhausted. Okay, think about that. Everybody outside that conference room on that floor, they are hitting that DHCP is responding to its request before it gets to the real DHCP that's either sitting in a wiring closet or on a different floor or in a different building. Okay? Alright? So now, that's an issue. Alright? This is also where port security can come in. This is also where DHCP snooping can come in, which is a great technology, by the way. Okay? Alright? So now, so switching something to access mode can be kind of important. Understanding the difference between a trunk port and an access port. Okay? First of all, you have the ability, now this is your thought process as you are building your network at work. Okay? So, first of all, okay, the chances of someone hacking your data or stealing your data, okay, it's going to be impossible because they're not going to be able to read other trunk information or tagged information or VLAN information, okay, by convincing that switch to change its port into a trunk port. Now, this hacker has new information, okay? He works there, all right? He knows they're adding a new switch, okay? He knows it's not the IT people doing it, all right? It's George, and George thinks he can do everything, okay? All right? Okay? George fixes all the problems in the building, but yet George is the problem that he has created since the time he's been there. But nobody knows that. They just know George is George is the guy to go to, all right, when they can't get how do I put this? It's not the fact that they can't get the network guys to do the work, okay? They just have no patience for the process that it takes. Some companies that you work at, okay, you can only do changes every other Wednesday, okay? And it must be done, put in, and approved the week before that Wednesday. So, okay, let's go to the calendar. And guys, this is real. I mean, this is stuff I experienced. Some of the experiences I had in my career. So now, beginning of the month, okay. On a Thursday, we have what is called Change Control Review Board. Okay, all right. So before Thursday, you have to have like Wednesday night. You can submit your change to the board review. Now, you must call in on that review and that meeting on Thursday. If you don't, your change gets bypassed. Bye-bye. Okay? So think about it. You come in and says, okay, this change was submitted by Kyle Martin. Kyle, are you on the call? Kyle, are you out there? All right, I don't see Kyle in the meeting, so let's go ahead and move on. Okay? Now we go to the next change. Kyle missed that chance to get his change reviewed. Only Kyle could talk about that because Kyle's the one that actually submitted it. Okay? Now, let's say Kyle does show up. He talks about the change, why he's doing it, blah, 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 blah. Now, two things are going to happen. Either they're going to, or three things. One, they're going to deny it, approve it, or say, okay, Kyle, we want you to make these changes to your change request, okay, and add these commands to your change, okay, and resubmit, okay, all right, and obviously this is going to be done after the meeting, so you're going to send it to me, blah, 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 whoever I am, and I will go ahead and review it, and if all these changes are done, then I'll go ahead and approve your change for next Thursday, okay, or next Wednesday, whatever. Now, here's the thing: if I don't get that information back to him by call of business or close of business, guess what? I have to wait until the 20th or the 19th because we're doing it on Wednesday, right? I have to wait until the 19th before my change can be done, assuming that the next Thursday I submit it and get it approved. Okay? This is even for me to actually do a shutdown on a port. Okay? And I want you to think about that. It takes 2 weeks to do a shutdown on a port. Okay? All right? These people at that building don't go through this process. All they know is they're impatient. Okay? So, instead of waiting for us to put the switch in, they go ahead and have George just go ahead and slap it in. Now, George, the hacker, okay, knows that all those ports are dynamically desirable, okay? He might not know the term, but he knows that he can actually put in software on his company computer, all right, and negotiate a trunk with that Cisco switch, okay, and now read all the packets coming in on all VLANs, okay? All right? Yeah, these things happen. So you as an engineer need to understand these port modes to say what is best. Okay? Well, obviously all ports except trunk links need to be in access mode. Okay? All right? Now, of course, this one's vague. Dynamic auto. This mode makes the port willing to convert to a trunk link. Dynamic desirable. This mode makes the port actively attempt to convert the link to a trunk link. Okay. Vague, but I'm going to explain it. All right. That's what was bouncing around in my head. Okay. All right. What exactly is auto doing? I can't remember. So now, okay, I just refreshed my memory. So, if I have a situation where this is desirable. Now remember, dynamic desirable, okay, it is forcing the negotiation of that trunk, okay? Now, because this is dynamic auto, it's not going to force the issue. It's not going to try to make it happen. But if the other side is, I'm going to comply, okay? Meaning that if both of these, okay, auto, yeah, they're willing to create a trunk, but neither one of them are the aggressor. So, you get nothing. Okay? Now, okay? Now, what if this is just hard-coded trunk? Okay, well, that's the aggressor. So, hooking up to another port that's dynamic auto, okay, a trunk will form. All right, does that make sense? All right, okay. What I just went through, this is something that's going to happen to you all the time. All right, if you are stubborn and refuse to go back to Cisco documentation and look this stuff up. Now, I say Cisco documentation, okay? Not some forum, not even Cisco forum, okay? They can help, but the real information is in Cisco's documentation. Notice I exit out of the forum, okay? All right? And went into Cisco documentation. Sometimes the forums are helpful, okay? I'm not one to use the forum when I really need help. I would use Cisco Tech, okay? Because it could take hours, even days, for someone to read your post, okay? Some people will argue against that, but, okay, the last thing I'm going to tell my manager when my manager comes and says, hey, you know, I need an update, what's going on? Oh, I'm just waiting for Cisco forums to respond. No. No. Okay, that's just unacceptable. Okay, at least in my career, anyway. All right. Okay, so it's just not acceptable. Okay, so now, all right, how to configure a trunk as 802.q. We've seen that. What happens when a port has been trunked? Oh, you know what? I missed that. Okay, so let's go back to my connection, which is where it disappeared. Really? Okay, that's weird. All right, first of all, yeah, let's just name it. Let's say network 5.10. All right, and this goes up here 192.168.5.10. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and save that session. Okay, and now we're just gonna go ahead and double click on here. That's how you save it in Putty. All right, now. I gotta get me a new copy of Secure CRT. What was I doing? Oh, show VLAN brief. Notice that we stop at FAO23. FAO24 is not there. Okay, so you don't see it in the ports of any of the VLANs listed, and the reason why is because a trunk port by default, okay, is a member of all VLANs. And you ask yourself, that doesn't make any sense, but it does, because you create a trunk, and by default, all VLANs are allowed to go across that trunk. Okay, now only VLANs that you have configured as a VLAN, like here, only VLAN 1, 2, 11, and 50. Okay, don't worry about 1002 to 1005. Those are the default VLANs. They're made for certain technologies, and we're not worrying about them. Okay, so it's not in the VLAN list, but it's in the trunk list. Okay, all right. So your trunk ports are never going to show up in the show VLAN brief because they're not going to be a member of just one trunk. I mean, one VLAN. Okay, now they could be. You could disallow every VLAN on there except one. Okay, that part's fine. And yes, that's possible. All right. Now, if you have a trunk link going to a server, okay, all right, and you only allow one VLAN, just put that server in the VLAN. Just put that port in the VLAN that the server needs to be on. Okay, there's no point of actually creating a trunk link, all right, to tag information to go to the server when there's only one VLAN, okay, that you're going to be doing, all right. But they are like ESSI, okay, which I don't think you even download anymore. That allows trunk links, okay, all right. Then I can actually create my VMs and put them in a trunk or in a VLAN on the ESXi server, okay, and when that traffic goes out from that PC to hit my switch, it's going to be tagged, okay, and vice versa. So I can separate my traffic in that sense. Very powerful, okay, all right, but if you want, there's no point to create a trunk and then isolate, unless you have no idea how to change the trunk on that ESXi, or do not have login credentials to do so. Okay, yeah, I can understand that. All right, so things, in our world, there is no such thing as right or wrong. There is a sense of actions and consequences. Okay, and at some point, we have to do wrong things to get things moving until we're able to do the right thing, okay, from a company's perspective. Not right and wrong as far as saying this is the correct way to do a network. I've asked that all the time. What is the correct way? There is no correct way, okay? It either works or it doesn't, okay? And with a company that you consider incorrect, okay, they have been running that network like that for decades, okay? And you creating changes creates more problems, okay? So don't be that person who thinks they know what they're doing, okay, and their way is the right way, all right? Not every network needs to be on a 10 address, okay, all right? If you really understood how many addresses in a 172 address, okay, you don't need a 10. Save the 10 for something else, for more growth, okay? Save it as a hierarchy, okay? Maybe the 10 addresses is for the WAN connections or from the site to site because they're global, all right? That's where we have our 10s, okay? At each location, there are 172s because there's plenty of addresses, okay? And I mean plenty, all right? But I've seen people do this. They'll go in and redesign someone's network, and they're only there temporarily because the person's sick, and start redoing their entire IP address scheme because they think 10 addresses are the correct way. All right? Okay? You can't be that. I just don't want you to be that way. Okay? I want you to be a network guy, not a dictator. Okay? On what's right and wrong, and what things should be. Okay? All right? I, as a contractor, okay, when I was a contractor, okay, I will hang up your pictures upside down or even or even crooked if that's what you pay me to do. What I will not do, what my limit is, or the line I won't cross, is do something that causes harm, like taking a heater and hooking up stranded wire to the heater. I'm not going to do that. Okay? All right? I'm not going to put you in a position where you're going to fall asleep and wake up on fire. All right? And it sounds funny, but I'm serious. Okay? And I will lose my job, and I have lost my job, putting my foot down saying, no, I'm not doing that. You do that. You want your money, you do that. I'm not doing that. All right? Especially being an ex-electrician, that's just something we don't do as an electrician. All right? Because we know what stranded wire does when you're putting a huge load on it. Okay? All right? So we use solid wire only. Does that make sense? Okay? All right. So now we're going to stop here. Okay? And as always, be strong, be determined, be Cisco. And I will see you on the next one.